223E, tactile input port.
Here we are. And the multidimensional kinesthetic input port.
Yeah, they're two different names.
Yeesh.
You know, the reason that this has the multidimensional kinesthetic input port has a different name than the tactile input port is because of the 222E, which had the rings. So
yes.
a different mode for interaction. Now, with that out of the way, let's start playing with the patch.
Yeah, so what's a little bit different about how we've, I guess how we're approaching this featured module section is we've kind of pre-patched everything, because what I'm finding out about this, because this is Robert's 223E, it's what did I say earlier? It's the opposite of...
what did you say? I was so flabbergasted by
it's the opposite of immediate, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely it requires a lot of programming, a lot of when we were working on this, Kyle, this patch took us almost 3 hours to make, which is a new record for the show, and it's because there is such a separation between the timbres that you want, the sound, the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle would tell me he's like, I want a loping sequence, and I can program, my 251 and all that stuff to do that. But to make it work in the 223 requires a lot of activity that isn't making sound or music. You know what I mean? It's building a front end of sorts for the way we're going to stop, start, and modulate the different timbres and activities and the rest of the patch.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing about, so there's so much kind of work that you do on the front end, but then once you've got it set up, you have just an amazing amount of control over everything, which I'm, coming from using the 218E, which is very immediate, which we'll go into. And like what you were saying, so you got this as an easel K setup.
Right, yeah. And I've told this story a few times, but I got my easel with the 223E in it, so it was the easel K. And I got it out of the box. I was really excited. I turned it on, and I tapped a key, and nothing happened. So I knew the oscillator was making noise because I turned the VCA up, and then I patched a cable from control voltages, just one of the radios, because it has these 4 radio things. I patched a cable to pitch, and I pressed a key, and nothing happened. And it was only after watching Todd Barton's amazing Buchla series that he has for sale on like Ask Video and Macro Video, where he went over the 223E, that was when it really unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my embarrassing thing when I saw him live, because I was like, oh my God, Todd, you changed my life by showing me how to use the 223E. I can use my easel now. But looking at the patch, we have a lot of patch cables going into this thing.
Yeah, we should have counted, maybe we should, about how many outputs this thing has. I mean, it's got to win for most outputs on a single panel module, right?
Yeah, it maybe tied with the 225E MIDI controller. You can see it over there.
Oh yeah, that's got quite. I don't
know. The way this thing's organized for folks who don't know what this is. So when we talk about the 223E, and I think I'm going to post a picture of this on the website to go along with this episode.
Beautiful website.
Yeah, it's worth it. This is 2 different modules, sort of. One is the normal Buchla size module that goes in your system, and it has inputs and outputs. Actually, it only has outputs and a couple of inputs. And then the controller is the bird thing, the Thunderbird, I think Joel called it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on the design of the Buchla Thunder MIDI controller from some years back. And it looks kind of like a Native American bird,
mm-hmm.
Thunderbird. And that connects into the module with a ribbon cable. So you go into the module and it has these arpeggiator section and a set of pulses, and then these 4 things called radios. And Todd talked about why they're called radios, and he was kind of guessing. I can't really... I've thought a lot about this. Why are they called radios? Are they different stations? I don't know, but they're called radios on the module.
Mm-hmm.
And each one has pulse out, location, pressure, impact out, control voltage out, and then a second control voltage out or location.
So location is new to me coming from the 218E, which there's the actual CV out, the pressure out, a pulse out, but location is like where you actually touch the for the different keys that are on the
Yeah.
the what do you call it, the Thunderbird section, depending on where in the key that you touch, because each key is about, I don't know, 2.5 inches.
Most
Well,
of them,
most
of the feathers
Yeah.
are, about that.
And so so depending on where you tap on that knows the location, or it senses that,
Right.
and voltages can change because of that.
Yeah.
Instead of, or it can do as well, pressure, where it's the amount of the skin contact
Right.
on the key.
Yeah, kind of as you smush down on it, more of your finger comes in
Yeah.
contact. And it has a third mode, impact, which is kind of like velocity on a keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
where it will send a voltage from 0 to 10 based on how hard you strike the key or the touch plate. I have had mixed results with that. It may be that it's so sensitive that the voltage jumps so high, but depending on where you're sending that voltage, impact can open and close something really fast, or you can send it into a velocity input on the 292. So pressure, location, and impact. Pressure, location, and impact are the three ways that you can primarily interact with this. And it also has sustained pulses when you hold it down. It has a way to do polyphony, where you can route from the different radios to different oscillators and hold down multiple keys to send those out. You can program the keys per radio, so that some keys are on for both radio or more than one radio, and some keys are only on one radio, so that you're sending voltages all over your system. And this thing is all about outrageous modulation. It's about sending control voltages everywhere you want it to go,
And
any input.
in a custom way, and customized to your needs.
Yes.
Where compared to the 218, it's chromatic.
Yep.
So
And it looks like a keyboard.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing about the 218. With this, all of the voltages for all of the touch plates are set to 0. And you have to program the voltages in that you want. So if you're doing pitch, you need to know, like if you were doing an equal temperament, or you're doing like a tonal, Western 12 scale, the 12 tones, you need to know what the voltages are for each of the tones. So you tune your oscillator to C, and you need, 0, and then I think 24. I mean, I can't remember but you have to I use a tuner, but each key, each touch plate, you have to tune program individually for the note that you want it to be. Now that is really cool too, because you can program any scale you want. You could do gamelan. You could do, if you're going to perform a raga, you can do a raga scale. You can program whatever you want, which is really neat, because it's per touch plate. And that, I think, is a paradigm shift coming from a keyboard, where you're expecting the notes to always be relative to each other chromatically, like in the 218. That's also the challenge with this, though, because you turn it on and it doesn't make any sound. You have to really know what you're watching.
Yeah, it also makes me think of the earlier touch plate keyboards from the 100 series and the early 200 series, weren't set up chromatically until the 218 and the 219 and 221, where you had one or maybe two CV outputs for each key. So with this, and they were usually pretty large, like they were either 4 panels to up to 6 panels wide. But so this kind of condenses it, or it breaks it up. So in a way, it is 4 panels wide, because you've got the actual input port, and then the touch plate port.
Yeah, because the touch plate the Thunderbird is 3 panels wide. So
yeah.
It would fit. I have a Keen Smart Cab, which is 4 spaces wide. We could have put the panel thing in the Thunderbird inside.
Which is why it fits with the Easel K will fit underneath the 208. But
you see it in a lot of big systems that way too.
So but instead of having, I guess, individual knobs per every key to tune it however you'd like to, we have an encoder. switch on this
Yeah.
or knob.
Yeah. Which is the blessing and the curse of this, because you page through the different settings. There's one little window. This, what do you think that looks like? A piece of Trident gum. It's about,
yeah, that's a good.
it's about that size. And it's low resolution. It's an LCD, and contrast isn't the greatest. It just is what it is. But you page through.
It looks like early 2000s.
It does, yeah. It looks like an early, like the radio in my '98 Grand Prix. You page through the different settings, so arpeggiator, then pulse outputs, then each radio, and then the CV outs, and so on. And then you turn the encoder to change the value item by item. So you increase the CV1, you turn the encoder, you press cursor to CV2, you turn the encoder, you press cursor to radio, and you turn the encoder, and so on and so forth. Like, I'm making it sound as tedious as it is. It's pretty tedious, I'll say.
It's. Would you say it's the most menu divey out of
very close
all
to
of them?
the 291E can be menu divey.
Oh yeah.
When you're programming stages, that actually is. I would say they're pretty similar that way. I'm
That's the filter.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a triple morphing filter. I'm faster on the 223E because I've used it so much.
Mm-hmm.
The 291E, because you're setting the menu options per filter, that can be pretty tedious.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 225E has a little window, and it's pretty straightforward. That one's a set it or forget it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This takes, the 223E takes so much because the more outputs you're using, the more programming you have to do.
Yeah.
And then you have to be really thoughtful about when a key is active in two radios and where you're sending those. But that's how you can do stuff like chords and really cool things with intervals. I like to use it to simulate. I was working on I need to share this with everybody. I'm working on a Buchla arrangement of Ligeti's Musica Ricercata No. 2, which you can hear in Eyes Wide Shut.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really famous piece. And that piece is interesting because on an 88 key piano, you play F and F sharp with your left hand all the way at the bottom, and then you play the F and F sharp with the right hand all the way at the top.
Okay.
So what I did with the 223E is I have a key sending control volt, the pitch, to my low oscillator, see the left side of the keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
and the high oscillator to the right side of the keyboard. In that case, it's the two sections of the 258E. So then I'm able to play with one finger both sides of that keyboard, the way you would need to with four fingers if you were playing on a piano. And that's one of the really cool, powerful things about this, because I could conceivably send that control voltage to every single input in my entire system, and it's just going to go everywhere and do all kinds of crazy stuff that way. But doing it with pitch is probably the most natural thing that we'll start with. It's definitely where you started today. You're like, okay, let's get a pitch.
let's get that out of the way.
Get out the long patch cable and make a pitch.
Yeah. So I guess I can see it or it's got one internal preset, right?
Yeah.
So if we were to shut this off and not have saved it through the 206, it would still be there.
Yes, if you there's something you have to do to save the preset locally. It's like you hold down the remote enable, but then that raises a good point, because a preset manager is damn near essential for this. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a preset manager and you have like an easel K, a really cool hack is to use the 4 different radios for 4 different presets, sort of.
Oh, okay.
So if you have this with an easel, radio 1 think of it as preset 1, radio 2 is preset 2, because you're probably not going to send pitch from all 4 radios to your pitch input, for example. Mm-hmm. That's a cool tip that I got from Todd Barton when this was still plugged into my easel.
So you would just swap those.
Yep, just move the cables.
And go to the next.
And it works. It works great.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing we didn't mention too, Kyle, is it has these 2 R and S hexagons. And those are joysticks. They're XY joysticks.
Yeah, which joysticks have been on some of the older touch plate keyboards, like the 219 had 2 square XY joysticks, and the 221 had 1 single joystick on there. I think a lot of it was meant to be used. I mean, you can use it for whatever, but I think a lot of people maybe use it for spatializing quad.
That's Morton Subotnick did that in Silver Apples of the Moon. I don't know which joystick or anything, but he did a swirling thing through quad, and that's a really, really common use case of the R and S things here with the 227.
Yeah.
So which we need someday when we do a quad performance, you and me together, we'll patch R to 2 sections of the 227E front maybe, and then S to the 2 back sections, and then left and right. So we'll make them go all over the crazy places. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah. All right.
Are you ready to hear this? I mean, this doesn't make any sound.
Right.
Here, I have to make a sound. Okay, you heard the 223. Yeah, let's walk through this patch. You go first.
So we kind of broke it up into 3 different sections. The first one is a sequence, just a short sequence on the 251E. So what was cool was we have one touchpad that we have touchpad Q that will start the sequence, but it also, depending on the location, so where I tap at the bottom of the pad, it's really quiet. But as I move my finger up, it gets louder. So it not only it sends a pulse to start this sequence, which you're hearing now. If I kind of move my finger lower on the touchpad, obviously it got quieter.
Yeah, we have location patched to the CV input on the 292E Dynamics Manager. That's how we're doing that bit of magic.
And so
low pass gate sounds good.
Yeah, so with my finger just going up and down on this key, it's as if I were turning the knob on the 292 low pass gate. Then we've got on a key just adjacent to it, it's the T key. If I press that, it stops the sequence, and it stops on that same note. And then that also has the same location setting as well. So I can stop on a note and have that hang there, and then play with how much of it is going through the 292.
You want to see something really cool?
Yeah.
Now if we press...
Why else am I here?
we press both of them at the same time, it will advance one step in the 251E. Okay, I'm doing this wrong. Maybe my fingers are too sweaty. There it goes.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, you heard it. It's kind of hard to do, but when you send a start and a stop pulse to the 251E,
I guess you gotta be very specific on that.
You gotta be at exactly the same time.
But it does reset every time. Then, like if we stop it on the second note, it'll stay there. But if we go press the start key, it'll reset. So we've got that going. That's kind of so that's coming from the 268E oscillator by Keen Association.
Oh, yeah.
So another thing that we have set up to that, maybe you can explain this portion of it. We've got the M key going to the...
So the 268E graphic waveform generator from Keen Association has 4 oscillators, and you... Just really quickly, the way this thing works is you send control voltage and it shapes the waveform. Mm-hmm. So it's like a little virtual tape logger, and the CV is written to that tape, I'm doing air quotes, and rendered as a waveform. So when we're sending the M key, its location CV out to the wave shape input of the 268E for both oscillators. And we're using 2 of the 4. So when I'll activate that sequence, just one note. So as I move my finger for location, it's sending that CV to the input on the oscillators. And it only moves the tape when I touch it. So if I stop, that's the waveform we get.
Mm-hmm. So if you kind of tap it rapidly, will it
because it moves really slowly. I'm gonna turn it up really fast for a second.
So we've got a lot of timbral change on that M section. So we can restart the sequence. Robert's shifting his finger around on that M section.
Yeah, now that I stopped, the wave shape doesn't draw anymore.
Super cool. So you can stop that and bring down the volume. So I mean, that's pretty neat just with 2 or 3 keys, we can start a sequence, stop it, adjust the volume, and adjust the timbre. You could maybe do that with with one hand all at one time.
If you, depending on which, you could.
You could use your thumb.
Yeah, if we had, we randomly chose which keys we were going to.
Yeah.
If you imagine the bird, if you listen to this and you're looking at the picture of the Thunderbird on Google, we're using the tail feathers to start and stop the sequence. And then we're using M, which is just a little bit farther away, but conceivably I'm holding my hand over it. You could do 2 adjacent keys and have, changing the location while of both fingers. I'm moving my fingers over it. Kyle can see what I mean. Imagine like a little man. You make a little man that's running along.
When you pester your animals and do that in front of their face and trying to get them to attack your hand. That's my movement for my walking fingers.
My dog I try to reach the ball out of his mouth and he turns his head sharply but keeps his eyes focused on me like, what are you doing? No take, only throw. So the next piece, which I think I'm going to let you talk about it, Kyle, because when you came over today, you were like arpeggiator. Let's make an arpeggiator.
Well, it is, it's what'd you say? A quarter of this module, a fifth of this module.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really explored it. And I've heard some people talk about it and talk about how it's powerful. Where coming from the 218E, a lot more, not a ton of options on it. It's helpful, but so I wanted to kind of see what this one was about. So we're using another oscillator from the 268E, and so I think you have to. So what I learned is you can kind of preset the amount of steps in here, and we've got them designated, or is that the only way you can put them?
Yeah, you can only do them from the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or E, H, I, J, K, this top row of the Thunderbird.
Yeah, so it's like where the Thunderbird, it kind of, while it's left to right, is also kind of works top down. So at the top of the wings or the feathers.
Yeah, he's got his wings all spread out. This is really fun talking about it this way. The triangle is his head.
Yeah.
So is that E?
So they're smaller pads on there, and so those only correlate to the arpeggiator.
Right.
So we got some specific pitches set up on that.
I'm going to sit here and see if we can remember.
Oh, I can't. You got it.
So what we have to do to get the arpeggiator going is if you press run, then you hold down let's say I'm going to do A and C. Let's turn that up a bit. So it'll play them as long as I'm holding the keys down. But if we want to play the whole arpeggio, then we tap this button called add note, and you go.
He's tapping all along the upper sections of each
6
wing.
of them, right? A, B, C, D, H, I. So there's our arpeggio. And I didn't show Kyle all this, but you can go into the menu. I'm tapping through here and change it from rising to falling. Triangle. these modes show off better if you have like a full 8 setting or 8-note arpeggio, but we'll just leave it on rising for the rest of this.
Okay. So, so kind of the signal flow from this, the arpeggiator is going into the 268E. That's going into 292. There's an envelope that's getting triggered from the arpeggiator, and then that's going into the mixer, the 206 mixer. So this has the same, as Robert's kind of shifting on that M key. It's doing that same thing that we just showed you with the slower sequence. How it's kind of shifting the timbre, but we've set up a bunch of settings on the S pad, and that's one of the ones that's at the kind of like the XY
hexagon XY joystick. Yeah.
So what we've done here is we've first, I guess for the let's see, X is up and down. So for the up and down sections of it, we
Y
have.
is up and down.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. There are only arrows here. You know.
Oh yeah, I guess
There's
I
a left.
look
There's
over.
a points
Yeah.
to the right and one points to up.
So I've got that set to go to left and right. So that's set to panning. And so I'm just moving my finger up and down, shifting between left and right. So on the X axis, we have the rate of the arpeggiator. So all the way to the left, it's its slowest.
42 BPM.
And then if I shift it over to the far right,
I think that's 480 BPM. It's giving a full 10 volts.
so if now I'm kind of just rocking my finger up and down along the edge of this hexagon pad, and hopefully you can hear the, if you're listening on headphones or stereo speakers, you can hear it kind of shifting back and forth.
Yeah, it kind of has a Pink Floyd On the Run feel to it.
And what is cool, like I guess it's local. This is all kind of location. I'm not like it's not the amount of pressure that I'm putting on
it's
everything.
location.
So I can just tap, and it has a memory of like where I last tapped, and it'll then. So I just kind of tap the bottom left hand corner of it, and so we can hear it in the right ear. And it's slower pace. And then if I do the top right section of it, we can kind of hear it more to the left.
I think I have my headphones on
faster.
backwards.
Or me. We'll see. We'll fix it in post. So yeah, we've got. So if I'm shifting that around, we also have the M section that is shifting.
It's controlling. It's going into.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's N.
Yeah.
So we're kind of shifting the tape speed or whatever on the oscillator. So we have some shift in timbre there. Oh, and then also what we have is location set on key L for the inputs, the CV inputs on the 281 envelope.
Yeah, the attack and decay.
So at the bottom of the L note is like completely closed, so it's we get a very snappy,
Almost percussive. Yeah.
So right now we're kind of rocking the
Kind of a tom sound, isn't it? A little bit. Yeah. Not quite bongo.
No, we didn't.
But-
You said it. I didn't say it.
Tom.
Hey Tom.
Doesn't it sound a little bit like a tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then especially if we
Oh, there's that on the run thing again.
So I love
Yeah.
I love the stereo field. And
It's clear how much you love that key over there because it's turned brown from you.
maybe I should wash my hands
Like the left
every
one,
once in a while.
R is nice and white. But
Here, I
S
get some
is,
Clorox wipes on this thing after I'm
I'm
gone.
gonna get a magic eraser.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get a brand new one. No,
So yeah, we've got that going, and then if we shift up the key, the L key, that opens up the envelope. So where it's kind of wide open, we don't hear any envelope anymore.
it's so neat how familiar that if you think of Suzanne Ciani's Buchla Concert 75.
Those two. So yeah, this is very fun.
Yeah, it is.
So once again, with two hands, you've got all this spatial definition, timbre changes, tempo changes.
So I tapped my finger really fast on the N key, which modulates the wave shape on the 260D. And that's why you have that really, really a lot of harmonics in there.
Kind of shrill.
Yeah. I'll slow it down a bit.
Okay, so...
Boy, man, this is so much fun.
Yeah. So, all right, so we've done that to that. So let's stop the arpeggiator on there because we've got one more section that we set up, which we...
I couldn't see it because of all the patch cables.
So now we've got the 259E...
25080.
Or sorry, 25080.
Actually, let's be clear. This is the dual programmable oscillator.
Thank you.
From Studio.h. 25080 is what we call it.
So we've got that. We've got both sides of the oscillator being affected by the pitch of keys L, W, or sorry, V, X, V, W, X, and Y.
That's the order in the alphabet.
Yes. Oof.
Yeah, X
and
Y. Well, we had X and Y on the joystick.
Yeah.
And then we have X and Y. You know, it's too much. It's Saturday. So we're on vacation.
We've been working on this for 4 hours.
It's dark outside.
So yeah, we've got basically for this one we've got pitches, preset pitches for this.
Yeah, we programmed them in C major.
And they're going into two different envelopes, and so this is effectively kind of just set up the most basic in a keyboard sense.
It's so we're sending the same note to both oscillators.
Mm-hmm.
They're tuned together, but oscillator A modulates the amplitude of oscillator B, so they're going to have the pitches come in and out, and we have the touch keys at C, E, G, and B. So we get that nice augmented B. You can almost hear that old Chicago song, Color My World, in there.
Not familiar.
Okay, boomer. I'm not a boomer. I just, I like music. What can I say? There's nothing wrong with being a boomer anyway.
Never spent much time in Chicago. I don't know. Yeah.
It's windy.
So yeah, if I'm tapping the kind of the bottom of the four keys, it's the most subdued in a way that the waveforms are still set to their. I mean, there's a little bit of AM modulation that you can kind of hear through there. As I rock it up, the waveforms change to square and saw.
Yeah.
So it gets much more. Harmonics just kind of really come through.
Do you want to go off script for a minute?
Sure.
Let me switch this modulation from amp to FM.
Okay.
See what happens. Pretty cool.
And that's a location. Do we have location or pressure on this?
We have. Well, you know what? I'm gonna look. Give me half an hour to page through. What radio is that? 8? We have location.
Location. Yeah, so a lot of location on this one, which is fun.
Yeah, let's do amplitude and FM. Oh yeah, you hear that? That kind of a really fast tremolo. That's just wave. Which is funny because you're also modulating wave with the location. And then this is all three of them. I'm going to go back to just amp so we can continue on with our demo here.
I kind of like the FM a little bit better.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to break the fourth wall and say the reason we've been here for 4 hours is because Kyle has sat there and done that for 2 of them.
Yeah. I gotta get one of these things.
You should. You should get all of this.
Yeah.
You should buy it all from me.
Someday.
So I can retire.
So, but then I'll never get to retire.
I'll just buy it back from you.
All right. So we can actually kind of get all these things going.
We're going to pull it all
Try
together.
it.
What do we start with? The arpeggio?
Yeah. Let me
Okay.
turn on that.
Okay. Now,
Get that running.
I think that when you press add note, the arpeggiator plays the notes in the order that you've activated them. But that might be confirmation bias. It might sound different to me, but so let's find out, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to tap. So here's
No.
it just once the arpeggio takes its form, it's completed going through all the steps, you can hear it's the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I can sleep tonight.
Learn something new today.
Let's get a better waveform. Hold on. Oops. Okay, that sounds pretty good.
And then we can start the sequence.
That sounds a little bit like Alessandro Cortini, doesn't it? Just that sequence with the there, like that.
So yeah, modulating
Got some harmonics and resonance in there.
It's a two-person instrument.
Well, you could do it all with just if you weren't holding a mic, you could do all of this. I love that high pitch. That sounds so good.
Super fun.
Yeah. Got lost in that for a second. I love how because you're modulating the tempo of the arpeggio, the arpeggiator. Let me hit stop on that. It goes from being a melody to percussion.
Mm-hmm.
As I was just modulating the wave shape, to add a lot of character to, or a lot of harmonics to the sound. There's no filter or anything. The resonance comes from me making the the amplitude really fast with my finger. But Kyle's doing some cool stuff, changing the tempo and then taking the attack and decay down to just the nice ping, the LPG.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Could record a 25-minute ambient thing and call it, I don't know, something in Italian.
Throw a crap load of reverb on there, and
we have to give it an Italian name though. Ivanti.
I want a 223 now.
Ivanta record deal.